Hey everybody, welcome back to BigBallsFantasyFootball.com. We're here with the beauty and the beast, and we are going to give you our sleeper wide receivers and tight ends that are going to help you win your draft.
Yeah, and the wide receiver spot is very important, especially if you're in a PPR league. It's a very deep position. You know, there's some teams that have one or two good wide receivers, some teams that have three, very good productive wide receivers. So we're here to help you navigate through the guys that you can get later in the rounds that are the sleepers, but that are going to produce. Because there's certain offenses that don't produce near as well as others either. So
you also want to prepare yourself for injury. A lot of the starters are getting injured even already in camp. So you want to have some deeper players. You want to also have some rookies that are already taking off in preseason. I will go to my first wide receiver. John Brown of the Arizona Cardinals has already created a very good chemistry with Carson Palmer, who of course was shaky last season, that we thought was going to do a lot better. He's getting another weapon. Brown went 5 catches for 87 yards in his preseason debut against the Vikings. His second game, he got 86 yards on 2 receptions versus the Vikings. And the GM is impressed like hell with him. He's saying, my God, we're so glad we have this guy. And he is performing better than even our veteran wide receivers on the team right now. So he's a person to watch, definitely in, I would say, the mid-rounds.
yeah, and keep an eye as well if you're in a very deep league. If you're in a 12-person, 14-person league, and it gets down there late, these are some of the people that you have to take. I'll move on to mine. Mine is wide receiver Golden Tate. Now, he went from Seattle to the Lions. They're going to use this guy because he signed a 5-year, $31 million contract. So they want to get their money's worth for sure. So far, it's only preseason, of course, but he has caught every single ball that's been thrown his way, including a touchdown. I always like to see people I'm thinking about drafting catch touchdowns, even though it's preseason. Makes me feel like they're going to do it a little bit in the regular season. And Detroit is still throwing. Their passing offense is 9th in the preseason. So that was a little bit of a worry, was what were they going to do with Jim Caldwell being head coach. But looks like they're still throwing the ball quite a bit. And you have to remember that Megatron gets double and triple teamed.
Yep.
The Lions have been looking for a second receiver for a little while now that's steady, that can produce, and they really haven't found one. So they're hoping that Tate is that second guy that when everyone's paying attention to Megatron, they can go his way. Obviously, Seattle was more of a run offense, so definitely there wasn't as much throwing over there. I think he's a guy that you have to pick up if you can.
Tate, Jenilee's in a work league with me, and Tate went pretty damned early in our draft because everybody knows about the whole Megatron situation. It's really obvious the guy is coming from a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, and of course, if you can get a number 1 or 2, if you can get a good number 2, even in the later rounds, that's way better than getting a 3 or 4 on another team.
Yeah. I mean, and we'll talk about this more on our podcast that you can find at blogtalkradio.com/GRR on the Greg Reichstech Radio Network. We talked about strategy, and wide receivers, strangely, went a little early in our draft this time.
Yeah, wide receivers, there were some quarterbacks that went kind of early, some tight ends. So every draft is really turning out to be very different. Some are running back heavy in the first couple rounds, and then some people are grabbing those wide receivers very early.
Yeah.
Especially the top tier ones.
Oh, yeah, definitely. My second one is Brandin Cooks of the New Orleans Saints, who I actually picked up.
Whoop, whoop. I like him.
Yeah, picked him up in about the 6th or 7th round. I'm damn happy about it. 5 passes for 55 yards and a touchdown in the preseason opener against the Rams. He lined up all over the field. He's playing all over the place. He's benefiting from the fact that they no longer have Lance Moore or Darren Sproles anymore. So they're testing him in all these different areas where they used to run them, and he's doing very well. Unfortunately, he stretched out for 1 touchdown catch. Did you see the highlight of this?
I did not see the highlight.
Oh, my goodness. He stretched out, and it was one of those where it was fingertips. Should have pulled it in, actually. Brandon just needed one more step on it, and he would have gotten it. But for a
that's why it's preseason.
But exactly, but I mean, for a rookie to be doing that well, And for Coach Payton to be believing in him that much, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I like him a lot. Okay, my second one, and I love this guy. I got him in the 8th round of my draft. So I think he's going around there, 8th, 9 rounds. But is wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin for the Panthers. Now, another thing you have to remember when you're drafting wide receivers is who is throwing them the ball. Because you can have the most talented wide receiver, and if there's a crappy quarterback throwing to them,
Johnny Manziel. Sorry.
they're not going to do very much. Sammy Watkins is someone who's been going way earlier than I would ever take him because he's got E.J. Manuel throwing him the ball. I just don't think he's going to have quite the season everyone's expecting when they're taking him in the 4th round. You know, I think some people are taking him, you know, as early as like the 3rd. So, you know, you have to pay attention to quarterback. So why I like Kelvin Benjamin is he was the Panthers' 1st round pick. He's going to be their number 1 guy. If you remember, they lost Steve Smith. That was Cam Newton's favorite target. So Steve Smith is no longer there. They don't have anybody else to throw the ball to except for Greg Olsen. Their wide receivers are Khatri and Avant. So Khatri, Avant, or your number 1 pick. I think they're going to go toward that number 1 pick.
Yeah.
And the word on the street is Cam and him are attached at the hip on and off of the field. So they are developing not only on-field chemistry, but off-field chemistry, which you want as much chemistry between quarterback and wide receiver as possible. And he does have a touchdown in the preseason. Again, it's only preseason, but I like to see especially rookies get touchdowns. So he's a guy that's kind of been a secret. People are not talking about him very much. He's been kept on the low. He's a big guy. He's going to be their number 1. He's not going to be their number 3 or 4. So go get him in the later rounds. Like I said, I got him in the 8th. He's dropping to there, and I think he's going to ball out. He's going to be a possible, in my prediction, we'll see if I'm right, but he's going to be, you know, within the first month of the season, a possible starter for you as a wide receiver.
I like that pick a lot, too. And, I mean, you're dealing with a very defensive-minded team. And, yeah, as you mentioned, the other wide receivers that are on that team are very 2nd and 3rd tier. And it's kind of like a cookie cutter putting together. They rely on Cam Newton on that team.
Yeah.
But
and Cam can throw the ball, though.
Yeah.
He can throw. So.
Yeah. But he needs some help.
Yeah.
And I think this will definitely be a big breather for him if he can get a chemistry going.
I think so, too.
Yeah. Our final wide receiver is Jordan Matthews of the Eagles. After he dropped 3 passes, thank God, in our debut against the Bears. But
little dropsies.
He had some dropsies, but
the nerves.
Yeah. And, you know, it's the Bears. But he went 9 for 104 yards against the Patriots in that just shootout game that was going on Sunday. It was just crazy.
Was there any defense being played in that game
Not
at all?
really,
I don't think
no.
there was very much being
No,
played.
but here's the big point is the Eagles put up a lot of points against the Bears. They put up a lot of points against the Patriots. The Eagles are going to be dangerous this year. I think Chip Kelly has figured out the NFL, and he's put together his ragtag group of guys, and Jordan Matthews is just a perfect fit for them. The Jordan that we have seen in practice is the Jordan that we saw today. Chip Kelly said after the game, I'm happy with his performance. Basically, he's going to be playing the slot in between Macklin and Cooper because they, of course, lost Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
But so that leaves a place for this kid to shine. I really think he's going to come on this season.
And again, that's another situation where Macklin's not all that amazing.
No.
Cooper, by far, is not all that amazing. I mean, I know he's got good chemistry with Bowles. So, you know, they could use a guy that's kind of a breakout kid that will give them a little more oomph in the passing game.
And we'll get into more of the oomph in their passing game in our tight end report, too.
We'll be right back.